Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Shine Spotlight webinar series. I am Josh Kiser, the Managing Director for Shine by Carrie Lewis. And today, it's likely that I am as excited as you are. I have a little bit of a history in the music world, so I am very much looking forward to hearing our guest host speak today. I'm not even going to begin to try to list all the things that he's had his hands in. I'm going to leave that up to him, let him share some things about his story. But I will say he's been nominated for a Dove Award. He's been on network TV. He shared the stage with some of the biggest names in the business. And really, there's a whole lot more that I just can't even name it all. So we'll let him touch on a few of those things. But he's here today, and he's going to talk to us about just in general, the music business. So if you're watching live or listening live and you have some questions, make sure to put your questions in the Q&A section. We will get to those later. We do have a couple questions that came in earlier. We will address those later as well. But right now, let's get into the thick of it, and let's welcome today's guest, John Montes. Welcome. Listen, I'm turning it over to you because I can't wait. It's all yours, John. Take it away.
All right, man. Wow. I'm so glad to be here. Anything that Miss Carrie Lewis is a part of, I definitely want to be a part of it. So I'm glad to be here, talking to you guys and being able to share really some of my experiences of what the music industry has been. I think of all the segments of entertainment, to me, music is by far the grittiest. It's the hardest. And I think everybody's going to say that about their own section of it, but there's just a lot of things that you would not normally deal with. For example, actors, they have the union they can go to. Well, we don't really have that in the music side of it. We don't really have that umbrella of protection from the industry, from the inside. So you're dealing with a lot of different people, a lot of different roles, and it's always hard to figure out how do I navigate this thing, because it's such a huge monster, and then it becomes intimidating, and then so many other things fall into place with that, and insecurities, and just then losing your identity, and then realizing that you should have been yourself the whole time. And it's just this whole massive whirlwind of things that happen. That now me, I can look back at it. But when I was at the front of it, I had no clue. I had no clue how to navigate this thing. I knew that I had a dream. A little bit of my story, something about the age of 12 just let me know that music was going to be a part of my life. And you couldn't have told me anything else. Like, I knew for a fact that music was going to be a part of my life. And I grew up in Texas. It's a very small town. I think maybe we had 3,000 people in our little town. So it was a very small town. My house was a very popular house because it was right off the main freeway between Hillsborough and Whitney. And it was a big yellow house. So you would always describe it as a big yellow house. Everyone knew where I lived because it was the big yellow house. And but I grew up there. And so my knowledge of the entertainment industry was very small. At that time, I think we only even had 3 channels on television. It was ABC, CBS, and NBC. And then, of course, the public channel was the other one. So, we grew up in that kind of era. We didn't have social media. We didn't have the internet. You were really stuck to yourself to try to figure this thing out. And my family, none of my family's in entertainment. Like, I grew up with musicians on both sides of my family, my mom's side and my dad's side. So I was blessed in that I was just like in a sea of music. Just as a child, I was able to develop and evolve, musically speaking. But even that was very limited. I grew up in Texas. When you're in Texas and you go to church and you're Latino, then the kind of music that you're going to be playing in church is going to be what's called like Tejano music. So you guys know Selena, the big artist Selena that passed away. So it was that style of music. That's what I understood music to be. That was church music for me, and that's what I got, right? And then all of a sudden, I was introduced to Black gospel music, and that was just like it was just a completely different world for me. And I fell in love with it. I fell in love with that style of music. The first artist that I ever started really studying was BB and CC Winans, which is a brother and sister duo, and they're incredible. And I remember I was actually going to go to there was a group called Imperials back in the day, and I was gonna go listen to them in Waco. And then BB and CC were doing sound check out, it was an outdoor concert in Waco, Texas. And I heard BB and CC doing sound check, and I was like floored with their music. And it was a spark. It was something ignited in me that made me just want to do music for the rest of my life. And I think, for sure that was definitely the decision of my life right there. Because I would pray to God, like, God, I will sacrifice everything if you just let me do music. And to keep in mind, in my mind at the time, doing music meant I was going to be able to be on a tour bus and tour Texas. That was what I had in mind. I'm a kid, so again, all of this is so new and so fresh. But that was I would have been happy just knowing that I get to travel on a tour bus and I'm getting to travel all over Texas, because Texas is a very big state. It's a huge state. So that was the idea. That was a concept that I had in my head, and I had no clue that God had a way bigger plan for me than traveling Texas. Fast forwarding to more recent times, I've been able to travel literally the entire world because of music, and it's just been good to me. Music has been a blessing in my life. Music has taught me so much. I've made some really incredible relationships because of music. And I just know that that's just God's gift. That's just God's way of saying, you know what, here, I'm going to give you this. You prayed for it, you asked for it, and I'm just going to give this to you. And I have been. I've been able to go to China. I've been able to go to Europe. I've been able to go. Recently, I was able to go to the Middle East, and that was fun. I don't know if Hasna's on right now, but I was able to go out to Qatar, and that was a whole other experience. And it's all just because it's basically because you make a decision to either go in or don't go in. I think I'm going to say this to you guys. How do I make a decision to pursue this? How do I make a decision? What is the deciding factor for me? Because I think some people. I've worked for AMTC. What was AMTC before? For a few. Jen, I love Jen, for a few years, and I worked as a team leader in Los Angeles. And so you see, you come across a lot of people that are in different parts of their journey, of their musical journey, of their acting journey, just different parts of where they are. But one thing remains the same for everybody, is that we do a job, we do a gig. What next? What do I do next? What's my next job? I did a movie. What's my next job? I just did a record. What's my next step after this, right? So we're continuously faced with having to make decisions. And as entertainers, as people who are in the arts, we're so emotionally connected to our work. That's why we do our work, because we're emotional people. We love to sing because I love to sing a song. There was a question that came across that was, what's your favorite worship song to sing? And honestly, it's whatever song I'm singing at that moment. That's my favorite worship song to sing, because I'm emotionally connecting to it, right? So we're constantly making these decisions, but there's some big decisions that you have to make. I got a friend of mine yesterday. Actually, he's a former AMTC grad, and I got a message from him that he wanted me to look at his contract, his publishing contract, right? So there's a decision you have to make, right? There's things you have to know about publishing. You have to know that in your publishing, there's two different sides of it. When you're going to sign a publisher's deal, there's the writer's portion, there's the publisher's portion. And so what is that? What are these things? But these are decisions that you have to make, right? And so you're gonna have to study. You're gonna have to read. You're gonna have to get into. Right now, like, for you to be getting into music, or you're in music and you want to go even further, you have the internet at your fingertips. You have the entire world at your fingertips. So there's no excuse for you not to know that. Find it, read about it, study. There's YouTube videos, there's tutorials, there's these webinars. I mean, you have so much information at your fingertips that you can take advantage of to help you not make some of the mistakes that someone like a John Montes made when we didn't have these resources. Like, we didn't have these resources at all. And I would rely on the advice of the people that I respected. But sometimes you need more than that. Sometimes I need to hear from someone who's actually doing it right now, from someone who's actually in the business right now, from someone who understands it from the inside, and not just giving me an opinion from the outside. So I'm going to say this to you guys. Like, I've moved to Los Angeles 3 times. Okay. And now I'll give you a little bit of more of a personal sneak peek into my thought process of decision making. There's two ways of making a decision. The first one is going to be just on your own mental capacity. Okay. On your feelings, and based on your feelings, based on your mindset. This could be based on how you grew up. This could be based on whatever different ways of you making your decisions, how you were taught to make decisions. That's going to be one way. Okay. The other way is by praying about it. Okay. Now, what do you mean by praying about it, John? Okay. So the first 2 times that I moved here to Los Angeles, I prayed about it. I did pray about it. And literally my prayer was, God, I'm moving to Los Angeles, make things happen, figure it out and meet me there, because I'm going to Los Angeles. Okay. So God, being the God that he is, he has grace on you, and he protects you. Even when you're in the midst of a decision that you made on your own, without consulting him, without putting things in place, like, he still protects you in those times. And I know that he does this because I was protected. I was protected when I shouldn't have been protected. When I was making decisions on my own, I was making very selfish decisions. They were very based on me, what I'm going to do, what I'm going to get out of this. I would have friends of mine that were close to me that would advise me not to go. But I was so stubborn about it that I wasn't going to listen. Like, I knew at 12, this is what I was going to do. So at 12 years old, and I come from a very long line of stubborn men in my family. Okay. My dad and my grandfather both, my grandfather's passed on, but my dad is still alive and still as stubborn as all get out. But this is what I know. This is how I understand things to be. I understood growing up on a farm that if I wanted a particular result, I had to do certain things to make it happen, right? I know that if I was going to have milk for my aunts who wanted fresh milk from the Jersey cows for their coffee, that I had to get up at a certain time because they were going to be here. And so all these things happened. I had to make decisions at that point to get the results that I wanted to get out of this, right? So same thing, I applied the same thought process into my career. I applied the same thought process into my music. And it worked for a little bit, but for some reason, I've signed in the course of my lifetime, I've signed 3 different record deals. The first one was a Christian record deal. And that was with our umbrella company was Warner Electra Atlantic was who we were signed under. And so that was 3 years of me doing my decisions. And everything happened that could happen before that, right? So I moved to LA. Life is so good. I moved to LA and I have what I need. My bills are taken care of. I'm getting paid to do music. Everything was just great and dandy. And then I'd get to a certain point, and then only to find out that this was the cap. Like, why, God, could I not get past this certain place? Why could I not? I'll give you guys a story. Okay. So for those of you who are contemplating record deals and all that stuff, let me give you the story and where you need to watch out, because I think this is important. I signed to this record company. Won't tell you the name of it, but it was a record company. Our umbrella company, like I said, was VIA. But um, my management was tough. And when I say tough, I don't mean that in a good way. They were basically, for example, we got a deal, right? We got a distribution deal. I'm being told that that we're going to have to pay them, the distributors, that we're going to have to pay them $25,000 to be on the end caps of the Walmarts and like to really push the product. Like, of course, they're selling CDs at this point, and so it wasn't, you know, digitally distributed like you can do now. So that's the language that we would talk. But watch this. So he's telling me he's got to raise. So he had his way of raising the funds to do what we needed to do. So he's telling me we have to raise $25,000, right? Well, he raises the $25,000, and then we do the distribution deal. Well, I come to find out after I had already gotten out of the deal, and you'll understand why I got out of the deal. But I come to find out that they were actually paying him $25,000. So not only did he raise $25,000 from the people that he would approach for money, but he was also getting paid by the distributors. So they were paying him to invest into our promotional campaign. And I didn't know this, okay? I didn't know this, and that was a problem. Obviously, that's a problem. So then everything crashed, everything crumbled, because his motives were completely off. His motives were not what they should have been for us to move forward with where we were. So now we were getting ready to do radio. And when we got to do radio, everything, the funds were depleted. There was nothing there. And so then he had to file for bankruptcy so he wouldn't get sued. And then the record fell through. Now this is 3 years of work that goes into all of what I'm telling you, from being on the tours, from like doing everything we're supposed to do. I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to do, and I'm doing it, you know, for me, I'm doing it right. But this is what I'm dealing with. So I get to this point, and then boom, that's it. Then there's nowhere else to go. He didn't even want to release me from my contract, so I had to fight for that. After you've already filed for bankruptcy, I still have to fight you. But luckily, we had a mutual friend that talked some sense into him, and he released me from my contract, but he didn't want to let me go. The even worst part is that at the time, I think it's the Up network now, but before it turned into all of that, there used to be a network called the gospel music channel, okay, and it was huge. It was going to be the new MTV for gospel artists. Well, I ended up making really good connections with the president of the network, and he was willing to buy my album from my label so that they could push it on their network, because I was one of the faces of the network. It was they were using my image. They were using Natalie Grant, Kirk Franklin, and I believe Aretha Franklin. So I was the Latin guy of the face, right, or of the company. And everywhere they would start new markets, I would go and perform as an artist for the network. So it was really going into something really cool. And he offered to buy it. He offered to take, pick up my album after my record company had filed for bankruptcy. And my manager said that they weren't going to release it unless they paid $250,000 for it. Because again, it's all motivated by greed. It's all motivated by money and just having the wrong intention behind what we were, what I was after to do. So that was a decision there that I made. I made that decision early on. I accepted what the contract was, okay, a lot, because I was making a decision off of desperation, okay. I have worked this hard. I've done this demo. I got signed from this demo. So in my mind, everything I'm doing, remember, everything that I'm doing is going to give me a certain result at the end. So that's how I think. That's how I was thinking. So I'm thinking I'm going to put time into this, and I'm going to be dedicated to it, and I'm going to give it all I got. So I'm going to get the result that I want to at the end. But the problem was that I feel now the problem was that I didn't go to God about it. And I didn't really say, God, like, okay, I know this is what I want to do, but what do you think I should do, right? And for some people, we all have different relationship with God, and we communicate with God completely different. And that's all great. However you communicate, whatever that relationship with you is so personal and it's so intimate between you and God. But for me, I get down on my knees, I pray, and I want to know. I need confirmation. If I'm going to make a decision, then I need confirmation. But then I wasn't thinking that way. I was just thinking, God, you already know what I'm gonna do. You already know what I need, so just make it happen, right? As if God was like my butler, right? Like just do it, and that was it. And you have like understand the essence. So I'm not thinking that I'm wrong. I'm not thinking that I'm doing this wrong. I'm trained to think that I'm going to work and I'm going to get the result that I'm wanting based on the effort that I put in. So I'm expecting maximum results from this, right? Or return from this. And I didn't get it. So now I'm disappointed. And I'm not that one that's going to be like, oh God, why did you do this to me? I've never been that. I've never been angry with God about stuff like that, because I understand like we make our decisions, right? And I did, and I was fully aware that I was making my decision to do this the way that I wanted to do it. But was it the right way? That's what I want to ask you. Was that the right way to do it? And I look back now and I say no, it definitely wasn't, because then I still suffered a consequence at the end that I didn't have to, right? And I learned a lot. And I made some really great relationships out of that time frame that I still actually have now. A great one, which is the publicist that I was working with. Great guy out of Nashville, Tennessee, and we're still friends today. And this guy was working, me thinking he's getting paid by my manager and by my company. I'm thinking he's getting paid. He had worked an entire campaign and didn't get paid $1. But because he felt in good grace with me, he never mentioned it to me. He would always just deal with my record label. And literally, like, things were going so good. Again, to the point where this new network is wanting to bring me on and make me the face of their company. Like, things were going so good. And now we get to the point where things are not going so good internally. Like, things are starting to cave in. And he tells me, just to tell you the kind of person that he is, and this is my publicist. He's like, John, I asked him because I'm curious at this point if he's been taken care of. He says, I haven't gotten paid a dime. And I was like, and at this point, like, now we're friends, right? Like, now he and I are friends, and we were talking, constantly. And I was like, stop representing me. Stop sending me out. He's like, but you know what that means. And I understood what that meant. That meant that was going to end everything for me, because without him, I wasn't doing anything. Like, basically, I was getting all the opportunities that I was getting because of him. And he was the one opening the doors for me. He was the one getting me on television, doing interviews, like really putting me out there, getting me in the magazines. He was working really hard to help promote me. But I had to make a decision. Again, here's another decision that I have to make. And what's the decision that I'm going to make? Well, because of integrity, I'm not going to take advantage of who he is. I'm not going to take advantage of the fact that he's helping me, and I'm getting this benefit because of now a friendship, when my company's being irresponsible and not handling the funds the way they should have. So that's a decision I had to make. And I told him to stop working the campaign, stop doing it. And I understand what that means, but that's okay. Well, God will figure this out, and we'll work through this. And that was it. Then that was the end of the first record deal, and that was it. The album basically died after that, and that was heartbreaking, because again, there's a lot of work. For those of you who are songwriters, who have been in the studio, when you go into the studio and record, you're spending hours. And I was lucky enough that I had friends in Dallas that literally built a studio, and just said, here, use it. It's yours. Use it whenever you want to. Nelson Saladas in Dallas, Texas, just great people. But this is what I had. So I had, everything was there. All the elements that I needed were there. But when you're in the studio, you're working. When you're writing, you're working really hard. Like, you're putting everything into it, and you're putting everything you got into it. I didn't even know that there were such things as vocal producers. Like, I had no clue. So in my mind, I'm recording my own vocals. I'm literally pushing the record button, running to the other studio, to the vocal booth, singing my part and coming back. Like I'm working. I was doing whatever I had to. I learned how to do Pro Tools. I learned how to do all these different things so that I could record my album. But I didn't know you were supposed to have somebody else telling you how to sing the parts and giving you ideas. Like that didn't exist for me. So it turned me into a vocal producer. I also learned how to work Pro Tools. So that was really good because I learned something else that I could use now for other people, for other projects later on down the road. I didn't know that that's what God was building up in me, but it was. But again, it's doing this hard work, and then now for me to come to find out that this whole album is just gonna crash, and that's what happened. It just stopped. It stopped, and the buzz stopped, and it took a lot for me to pick back up and figure things out. And then I got signed 2 more times, okay? And the 2 other times that I got signed was for a Spanish Latin pop records. And that's those are 2 whole other stories, and in and of themselves. The problem was that I kept getting attached to the same type of person. It was the same personality type. People that are very charming, they're very outspoken, they know how to talk, they know how to do all these things, but they're what they were expecting out of it was not good. And these are people that robbed other people. And that's why when I say that in my experience, music is very gritty, this is what I'm talking about, because it's these type of people, not all the time, but it's these type of people that you deal with, people that just don't have your best interests at heart. And it is what it is, right? But it doesn't have to be. Like, it totally doesn't have to be. The 3rd time that I moved to California, my approach was completely different. I wasn't going to make the same mistake, meaning I wasn't going to tell God to meet me in California and make things happen. It was not going to be that. I couldn't do that again, and I wasn't going to do that again. I was actually working with AMTC at the time, and then I was singing at Daystar. So Daystar Television Network. I was on the Marcus and Joni show. I did that for about 5 years, and I was working with AMTC for about 7 years. So it was a perfect, like, that scenario was a perfect scenario for me. The reason being is because I'm flying out for AMTC on the weekends, right? And we're scouting and we're training, and I was actually the team leader for Los Angeles. So I was coming into LA from Dallas pretty much like once a month, at least, sometimes twice a month, just to work with our AMTC things that we had to do, and then traveling all over the country to do the talent scouting. And everybody can tell you, anybody who was a part of the AMTC staff, the team, can tell you that we loved being around each other. It was always great. Jen, if she's still on, we got to do a lot of scouting together and training on the road, and just doing what we loved doing, and we all loved doing it. I think you could have told us, like, you're not going to get paid this week, and we would have been fine. Like, we loved doing what we love to do. And it was great. Like, it was great. We put our hearts, we put our minds into it, and it was perfect. But we did that. I just saw a message. Are we good? Yeah, we're good. Okay. You know what? Let's do this. Does anybody have any questions before I go into this one?
We did have one question already asked that we can,
Okay.
and when you're answering it, I'll take a peek and see what Travis just said there. But
Okay.
We had a question regarding with so much streaming, like, it's different. You talked about how different it was,
Yeah.
a decade or so ago, and today streaming can be a disadvantage just as much as people see it as an advantage, right? So Nancy was wondering, how has streaming affected you? How has it affected your music, your sales, compared to, you know, previously when streaming wasn't really the way that people were consuming music?
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, there's going to be the upside and the downside of streaming. Um, I don't know if you guys know the numbers, if you're familiar with what the numbers are, but let's say basically if you get 1 million streams, you're looking at anywhere from $4,000 to $6,000 for those streams. It's not that much. Um, so it's kind of a give and take. Before that, before streaming, um, your audience was very limited. It was literally limited to the people that you would put yourself in front of. Without YouTube, you're having to go and perform in front of these people live, right? So for them to get to know who you are. So it's a give and take, and that's where now with streaming, you're in front of the entire world. I mean, you have access to the whole world. So it's your perception. How do you look at this? It doesn't. It can be good. It can be good if you're going to use it for the right purpose. If you're going to really understand that, okay, I'm gonna really push the streaming, but it's going to put you in front of more people. Okay, so don't necessarily look at it for the financial outcome of it. Look at it because it's going to put you in front of people, and make that your focal point. Because if you're looking at the dollar signs, you're just going to be disappointed. You're just going to be. At least at the beginning, you know, it can get better. It can definitely get better. And when you start getting more visibility, when you start getting more views, when you start turning those views now into monetization, then you're talking a whole different ballgame, and you can make some serious, you know, money with that. But I would initially just focus on getting your face out there, on getting your voice out there, letting people hear what you sound like, so that they can want to search for you, and want to get to know who you are as an artist. So you know, that's what I would say to that. Again, you have the entire world at your fingertips. Use it. Take advantage of it. Know what your niche is. Know what your audience is. Know who you're performing to. Know what these things are. And you might not be able to answer that question yourself, because here's the worst answer you could say. What kind of music do you do? Well, I do everything. Well, you're a liar. You can't do everything. And don't think in your mind that you want to do everything, because then you're not specializing in anything, right? You want to have a specialty. You want to know that I am a country singer. You want to know that I am a Latin singer who sings bachata music, or who does reggaeton, or who does these different genres and these different styles. Yes, it's good to go and maybe even do features on other types or other genres of music, but know what you specialize in. Know what you do. Like I'll tell you, for me, for a fact, I know that I'm a great vocal arranger. I know that I can go in the studio, and if you're a average to a garbage singer to a great singer, I can make you sound good. Like, I know for a fact that I can do this. And I know this because I put it to the test and I've done it. And I have worked with some of the absolute worst singers, and I've worked with some of the best singers as well. But you know, you start learning these things because you start putting it to the test. So put yourself to the test, challenge yourself, figure out when, for example, I don't know, maybe I think I'm going to, maybe I'm going to do, I want to be a country artist, but I also love to rap. Okay, then do a country song, do a rap song, and then maybe do one with the both combined. See which one you're getting more traction from. And if it's the country album, then go country. Go with it. Give your audience what they want, because it's going to be. It needs to be who you are, who you feel like you connect with. So if you connect with that genre, then give them that genre. But don't be trying to be everywhere at the same time, because you just kind of lose respect that way. You know, people want to know who they're listening to, and they want that. The messaging is super important, especially when you're getting started. The messaging is very important, and you have to be very aware of that. You have to be aware that you don't want to confuse the listener, because now, I'm sorry to tell you, but now your listeners have about a 5 to 10 second attention span. And if you do not get them in those first few minutes or seconds, then you're not going to get them. Then you're going to lose them. So be aware of that. That when one of my pet peeves, Josh, I don't know if you do this too, but you'll have a songwriter show that, I wrote a song. Let me hear it. Okay. So they start playing on the guitar and they're doing a music intro for like 10 minutes. And it's like, dude, can you get to the song already? Like, oh, isn't that is the worst. Like, get to the song, because people, like, especially people in the industry, do not waste their time. Do not waste their time. If you're lucky enough to get their attention, do not waste their time with a long intro, strum the chord and get to singing the song, because that's what they want to hear. Because I promise you, they would have already made up their mind if they like it within the first phrase or two that you're singing the song. So just get to the point. So same thing with your audience. Listen, they watch America's Got Talent. They watch The Voice. They watch American Idol. Everybody sees these shows. So everybody feels like they have an opinion about it. And trust me, they do. Okay? They do. It might not be accurate. It may not be right. But everybody tries to be Simon Cowell. So just understand that every time you sing, every time you perform, imagine that you're in front of the panel. And imagine that they're going to make a decision about you within the first 15 seconds of you opening your mouth. So just know that. So your YouTube audience, same thing. Your Instagram audience, same thing. Look at TikTok. Look at what TikTok is doing right now. Like, it's just to the point. Like, these apps are specializing in just segments of what the other one isn't. Snapchat, they specialize in their segment of what they're doing. So for you, specialize in your segment. Like, if you know that these are the way these platforms operate, then specialize in that and give your audience what they want. YouTube, it's a little more relaxed, but even then, get in and get out. Like, make your point and move on, so that you can keep your audience. Like, that's super important. One other question?
Yeah, well, we've got a few more that have just rolled in while you were saying that, and I hope everybody was just paying attention to the last 6 minutes, because there was so much gold in everything that you said. I mean, there was a lot of really, really good stuff. Musicians, singers, and songwriters out there, go back and watch the replay when this gets posted, and listen about 20 times to the last 3 minutes of what John just said, because it is so very, very important that you understand it's different if you're playing out, for your friends, and there's no aspirations of doing something in a business, then that's fine. Then some of these rules don't apply. But you have to understand what industry people are looking for. And if they don't, like John said, your intro, if there's a musical intro, it better be less than 10 seconds. Yeah. Like, less than. It should be like 5 or 6 seconds. If you can start off with your hook, do it. Like, that's it. If it starts with a verse, you better be into that chorus within 30 to 45 seconds. Like, you don't have time to waste, because they don't have time to waste. So it is so, so very important for you to understand that. So that was really, really, really good. All right, let's hit a couple more questions. We have somebody, this is a really, really good question. She asked about just general recommendations, but what she said, the next question to follow up was really good. She said, would studying music business as a degree help to spot some of the obstacles before getting out there? Or is experience just kind of the best way to learn?
Oh, honestly, I think they both go hand in hand. Honestly, I feel like first of all, any education is always going to be to your benefit. Going to my point earlier, me learning how to run Pro Tools opened up an entirely different world for me that I had no clue even existed. I didn't know vocal producers existed. So now am I not only doing the technical side, which is running Pro Tools and micing people and getting the sound that we needed, I'm also creating the melodies. So I'm on both sides, and I would get picked because I could do both, because they only had to pay one person then. And I would tell them, just give me like a little more extra, and I'll do both of them. You don't have to get an engineer. I'll do it myself. Of course they're going to go with me because I can do both. I can do that. So having the educating yourself about it is great. If it comes to the music industry, here's what you also have to look at, is like getting into a class like that and taking these classes. You're also in a classroom with other people, even if it's online, but you're still working with other people, and you're creating your network. You're already creating a network of people that are doing the same thing that you're doing. In my experience, I would not have been able to accomplish not one single project without someone that I knew. Every job that I've ever had, every single position working at Daystar came through word of mouth. Like even that job, working with Justin Timberlake came through word of mouth. Being able to travel and go to China was through word of mouth because of a relationship that I had that they vouched for me. Not one single time in music have I ever had to audition. It's always been word of mouth. And I've been living off of music for quite a few years now. Yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah, like do both. Do both of them.
Yeah, I completely agree. You can never have too much knowledge and information.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't be overeducated, doesn't exist.
No.
Right. Jenny, she asked, can somebody break into the music industry if you can sing and play guitar, but can't write a song? I get this question a lot, so this is good. This is a pretty common question.
Yes, it's called Britney Spears.
Which songwriters like us, that's great because it gives us opportunity.
Yeah,
but it kind of goes, I'll let you touch on it, but it goes hand in hand with what you just said previously.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many singers out there that don't write their own music. It's the business. It is what it is. Try to get into songwriting because that'll be a blessing for you. Assuming you get a nice song and you're able to sing it, and then you get your royalty check. Your royalty check is gonna be it'll be nice. just yeah. Try to write. But if that's not your thing, and for some people it just isn't, then hit the artist. Do go the artist route and sing other people's songs. I prefer to write my own material, just because it's my message. I'm personally connected to what I do, but it's not necessarily the case. And I'll tell you, the Spanish album that I did, I didn't write any of it, and there's no way. Spanish music, if you understand Spanish writers are very metaphoric, and like it's so poetic, like extremely. So there's no way, because my Spanish is good, it's not great, and there's no way that I'd be able to do that. So I had to sing somebody else's song. And really what I would the way I would do my vocals would be based on the melody. Okay. And that's how I put the passion into it, or that's how I would put whatever I felt like I needed to, was because of the melody, because I sometimes didn't even understand what I was singing. So it's possible. You can totally do it, but I would try to do both. I would definitely try to do both. And you know what? There's I don't know where you're from, the person asking that question, but there's a lot of groups that get together to do like songwriting sessions. So try to find in your area, find people, find a musician, maybe find a songwriter, so you can start learning. You can start learning how they write songs, and maybe you can be a part of that, and start working that part of your community, or your network rather. But I would try. I would really honestly, I would try to write songs, because it'll just help you all the way around anyway, understanding song structure better, and just even your delivery, if you're going to be singing and not writing. But it'll help you to understand like what the song, how to really get into the song and dig into it a little more.
Yeah, I think it goes a little bit back to the education piece again too. I mean, there's plenty of things that you can do online, free songwriting courses, pay songwriting courses, collaborating, like you said. You can learn a ton getting in a room with other songwriters. I mean, you really can. So we are starting question. I don't know where you were going to go next, but questions are starting to pour in. So we're going to try to fly through some of them. And then if we want to go back and speak a little more, we can.
Okay.
So Jaron says, what would you recommend concerning my band joining a music group or management company that is a new starter company?
Oh, okay. That's a great question. Man, okay. When you say starter company, I'm assuming the company's new, but I'm going to assume that the individuals running the company have been in the business, hopefully. If they're going to manage you, then they need to be able to take you somewhere. If they don't have that track record, if they don't have those relationships, it's kind of pointless. I mean, unless you're talking about these are going to be road managers and they're going to help you carry your equipment around and that kind of situation. But if you're talking about someone who's actually going to be managing you as an artist and building your career, building your brand, they need to be able to take you somewhere. I've seen it plenty of times where people will sign on to a company, but really the company's just using them to build their company. So it's like, if I'm going to sign myself to you, then you need to be able to take me somewhere. And I'm hoping that's making sense to you. But but just because if it's your homie, just consider it as a good time, and you're just going to enjoy the time. But if they're not really connected in the industry, there's honestly no point. That's my opinion. Somebody else could say something completely different, but I don't think in both of my scenarios. My first guy, the person that he knew, you guys might know the group War, old school group War. They did the Lowrider, Why Can't We Be Friends, all these really awesome, amazing songs. So he knew the Howard Scott, which is one of the original members of War, and that was his ticket. That was his claim to fame to get him through a lot of doors. Okay, so he knew some people, which he was able to get me to a certain space, but he didn't know as many people as I would have liked for him to have known. The second company that I got signed to, they knew a few more people, and it was easier. Like, he literally knew the president at the time of Universal Music Group. And so that was the first, and then they got bought out by Universal Latin. So the president of Universal Music Group, they ended up giving him the presidency of Universal Latin. So now he's on top of everybody. So it was good to be connected with him because he actually knew people. So if they know people, if they can take you somewhere, then yeah, cool. If not, I don't know that I'd recommend it.
Okay. Ladwanas asked, do songwriters have to stay in the same vein, one genre, just like performers do? She says she writes all sorts of different genres, and had a dream that she could. And she particularly, she says country and gospel is sort of her focus. So she wants to know, is that okay? Is it different for songwriters than for performers?
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely think so. Yeah, as a songwriter, you have a little, you can definitely be a little more diverse. And honestly, you can be diverse with whatever you want to be diverse with. But particularly for a songwriter, yes, I feel like you have that flexibility, because you can take, for example, you can take a song like I Will Always Love You by Whitney Houston, which was originally recorded by Dolly Parton as a country song. So that lets you know you can have the same song and it can go to a couple of different genres. But I know a lot of songwriters who write they'll write a song that sounds like Rihanna, or they'll write a song that sounds like Justin Bieber. Like, they'll write particularly for that artist, and that's how you want to approach it. If you're going to be writing different, like for gospel, you said, and country, I think, right? So if you're going to do a gospel record, then maybe you want to do a song for like a Tasha Cobbs, or for like a CeCe Winans, which she's more CCM, CeCe Winans is, but for the Kirk Franklins of the world, like direct it and think when what does their sound like, and that's how you want to write the song, because they have their certain sounds, as do country artists. Like, they have a Carrie Underwood is going to sound different than a Rascal Flatts. It's going to be a different kind of vibe. So if you're in those two pockets right there, study the mess out of those two pockets. Like, no gospel and no country. Know it like the back of your hand. Figure out who's writing on these records, and then follow those writers. Figure out how they write. Figure out the styles of writing that they do, and then start implementing all of those different elements that you're learning from other people into your work. and start defining, now this is your sound. Because once you develop your sound and your sound is liked, you're good. You're absolutely good at that point, because now they're looking for you to come and write for them. Now they're wanting you to come and work with them or be a part of their writing groups. And there's so many writing groups out there. That's another thing, is like, get into one of the affiliations, get in with BMI, get in with ASCAP. If you're going to be a songwriter, know what these things are, and then start getting involved into what they're doing. Locally, most of them will have chapters, at least in the bigger cities like the Dallases and the Miamis and the bigger cities like that. So if you're not in a big city like that, still, like, learn about it so that you can get into it, because a lot of times they'll do, like, I know BMI they have showcases here in Los Angeles. So you'll go to a BMI showcase, and there'll be like 4 or 5 different companies that are there. And I've seen it with my eyes, that somebody will go up there, write a song, and they'll write them like a $25,000 check just to join the team and get on a part of their publishing company, whatever that is. So know what these things are. But yeah, that's a great question.
Yes, friends, I hope you're listening, because that was another 3 minutes of gold right there. Rebecca asked, how do challenges of entering the secular music industry differ from the Christian music industry? Good question.
Okay. Well, one, you have to come to, for me, I'll say for me what it was. Like, again, this isn't everyone's, case. For me, I had to be at peace with accepting the fact that I was going to be dealing with comments or ridicule from the outside sources, from the outside world, from people who agreed or disagreed, that how can you be a Christian writing mainstream music? I tend to shy away from using the word secular, because I don't like the word secular, because it's more anti-God. And I think mainstream music, a lot of it isn't anti-God. I think it's all in line with, when you're talking about a relationship, that's God, how we treat each other. Now, some of it definitely can be anti. I'm not saying that, but I personally would never do anything that would go against my values. I'm never going to sing a song about slapping a girl on her head or whatever. Like, I'm not gonna. That's not my language. That's not the way I talk. That's not who I am. So I'm not going to do that. But I can write a song, or I can sing a song about being in a relationship, loving someone else, and like being in that space. So just come to grips with it. For you, it's going to be different again for everybody. Everyone has a completely different relationship with God, and it is what it is. But some people are going to like it, some people aren't, and that's you determine that. That's between you and God.
Yeah, good. Let's do just a couple more here, and then we'll see where we're at. Let's see. We had somebody asked about age, but it was over in the comment. I believe it was Travis, and he said, "Is age?" He said, "I have is an age problem." He said, "I'm 38, will be 39 in July, but I look much younger."
Yeah.
Is age? What do you think about that?
I think that's an old myth at this point. Like, that's kind of played out already. You just have so many. There's so much to do in this world of music, and everybody thinks that, okay, well, if I'm not Justin Bieber, then I'm not making it. Well, that's not true. That's just not true. There's so many different facets of the music industry that you can be involved in, including being an artist at 38. Like, you're still young. You're able to do what you got to do, man. And I encourage you. Go out there, do it, because now you have some life experiences that will play into your music now. And so now you have something to say. Not saying that if you're younger, you don't, but you don't have the 30 years, the 40 years of experience to back it up when you're talking about being heartbroken, because I'm sure you've been heartbroken by now, or you've broken some hearts and you've experienced that, and you're able to reflect on that now and understand what that is. But yeah, I don't see that as a problem at all, like, at all.
All right, and then we're gonna do one more, and then I'm gonna let you get back and touch on something new for a couple minutes. Joy wanted to know, It's about a degree in music. She says $75,000 too expensive for a degree in music.
Uh, I, I mean, I don't, again, it's, the tuition is the tuition. I mean, there's people who spend $250,000 on an education. The education is going to be the education. It's going to be the information. You're going to come out with the diploma at the end of it. But again, look at the overall benefit of being in that same space with other people that are doing the same thing as what you're doing and wanting to do. You're creating a network, and that network of people that you're going to be with, that you're going to be involved with, that you're going to be coming up with, is going to be worth to you more than that $75,000 will ever be. Because in this business, I don't want to say unfortunately, I think it is a fortunate thing. In this business, it's definitely about who you know. And so it's not that you're buying your way into the network, but you're going to develop these relationships. So it's yes, you're getting the education, but think beyond the education. Think of what comes after. Think of the people that you'll be associated with. Just go past the price tag of it. Now, if you were talking like this is $500,000, that's different. Yeah, that you can do something for a lot less at a lot of these schools. But no, I don't think that's too much, to be honest.
Okay, great. Well, why don't we, if there's one more thing that you really want to touch on today, and then we'll see if any more questions trickle in.
Okay. So yeah, like I'll jump to where things are now. Things are in a really good place, which is where I left off. Just the approach this time has been, God, get me through this. Let me figure this out. And it's real simple what I did. I was working at AMTC. I was working at Daystar, and I was comfortable. That, like, to the human eye, it was really dumb for me to leave Texas because I had everything there. I was singing on television, and then I was able to work, and go do what I was doing with AMTC at the time. So it was good. There was no reason for me to leave. There was no reason for me to contemplate leaving because I was living what most people would consider a very comfortable life. And I was fine. The problem was that I was complacent and I was comfortable. See, being comfortable is a good thing. Being comfortable is a bad thing because now I'm not growing, and I knew that I had something way more inside me than just doing what I was doing. Not that it was bad. It was great. It was great. Again, that's what we all want, is to be able to get up and go to the studio, go sing my songs, and getting paid for it, and I'm fine, like I'm comfortable. But being comfortable also means that you're being comfortable. It also means that you're not growing. At least for me, that was the case for me, and I just didn't feel at ease with that. I didn't feel at peace with that. So I said this. I said, God, okay, if I'm gonna move back to California, then I need Joni Lamb to be okay with. I need her to give me her blessing, and I need Carrie Lewis to give me her blessing, and then I need my parents to give me their blessing. Right? I wanted these check off, and I said if one of them doesn't check off, then I'll take that as your will for me not to go. They all gave me their blessing and told me to go and do it, including my parents, which I didn't think my mom was going to, because of course she doesn't want me to leave. She didn't want me to leave Texas, but they were all like, go do it. If this is what God is calling you to do, then go do it. And so I was like, okay, so this is your will. So I'm going. And I will tell you that 2018, moving out here, when I moved out here, 2018, I started working for a nonprofit downtown Los Angeles. It was one of the worst years of my life. And I've been through some bad years. I mean, I've been through 9/11. I've been through some stuff, and that was absolutely one of the worst, if not the worst year of my life, because it took me down to ground zero. Whatever pride and ego I thought I had was crushed. it just took me down. And it was to the point where I was basically in tears, because I'm like, God, what am I doing? This was stupid. I should have stayed. I was fine where I was, but I didn't know that God had a bigger plan. So 2018 happens. I end up going back home just to visit towards the end of the year. And I come back, and now I'm praying, like, do I even go back to LA? You know, I'm at DFW getting ready to head to LAX. And I'm like, what do I do? God, at this point, like, you got to let me know that I'm on the right track, that I'm supposed to be here. And I promise you not, the moment I landed into LAX, I started getting these phone calls that things were starting to move in a different direction. I kid you not, it was the moment I landed. And I prayed this at DFW airport. So within a span of 3 hours, God was already moving on my behalf, and I was clueless. So I literally got my luggage, and after getting off these phone calls, I'm at the airport taking these phone calls, doing these phone calls. But I'm at the airport, and I was like, okay, it's your will for me to stay. You know, I hear you. I'm hearing you super loud and clear right now. And God's just been working with me in different areas and whatnot. And so I've been working on a new company for the concept came about 7 years ago. But it started going into development at the end or at the beginning of 2019. So I moved into Hollywood, which, if you know me, you know that is the place that I absolutely despise. Do not want to live in Hollywood. I now can't seem to get out of it. I'm stuck in Hollywood again. But I moved to this property, to this apartment complex on Sunset Boulevard. In this property, one of my neighbors, which was on the floor above me, we end up meeting. After I fly back in, we end up meeting in the elevator. Now, y'all have heard the term elevator speech, correct? Okay. So elevator speech. So I'm literally going from the first floor, and I lived on the 5th floor. He lived on the 6th floor. In the span of floor 1 and floor 5, I tell this person about my idea. Tell my neighbor about my idea. I had only seen him once, maybe twice in the building. And I had just gotten back from Texas, giving a speech and the spiel of trying to get investors for my company. And at the time, I'll share this with you guys, but at the time I was only asking for like $50,000, right, to start my company. And that's what I had gone to Dallas to do, was to go see if I could get investors. And mostly it was my family. It was my some friends of the family that I invited in. I made everybody, including my mom and dad, sign an NDA so that they wouldn't talk about what the company was or whatever. But that's what I had just gotten done doing there as well. And I go back to LA now, and no one in Texas like gave me anything. They said, great job. Like, we can't wait till this comes out. And I got all that, but I got no checks. No one says, yeah, we're going to invest. None of that happened. So I'm a little bummed out, but I'm like, you know what, God, you got this covered. So I get back, and in this elevator time from 1st floor to 5th floor, my investor, which is now my investor, says, I will give you 100%, but I will tell you this now, you're going to need a lot more money than what you think you're going to need. And he says, I got you covered. So he ended up covering the entire bill. And now we're about to launch fairly quick. And it's an app-based company that I'll be able to share with you soon, hopefully really soon. But it's an app-based company that's coming out. And that's where I'm at now. It evolves around the entertainment industry. So I'm really excited about it. But again, my point in telling you all of this is just being in a space where you're open to listening. Because I promise you, God's not going to let you down. I promise you, He won't. He will not let you down. Just take some time to not talk, and take some time to listen. And be okay with whatever answer is going to come your way. Be okay with that if God says, I don't want you living where you are now, you got to move here, be okay with that. Be ready for your world to be shaken. Be ready for some major things to happen. But the only way that's going to happen is by you making a decision to say, I'm going to really, really, really trust you, and I'm really going to put all this in your hands. And whatever happens, it's on you. And I've done that with God now. Like whatever happens, even at this point, whatever happens with the launch, whatever happens with anything that's going to be taking place, it's all on you. And that's all I can do. That's all I can do. I can do my best. I'll tell you, like, I've had this season of my life now going into now 2020. I know we've all had a rough beginning 2020, man. That's a whole other show in itself. But you come into this and I decided that I'm going to learn. Like, instead of being the one to do the webinars, I want to be the one sitting down to learn, because I can't afford to make the mistakes that I've made before. I can't afford not to know. I can't afford not to listen. I can't afford to make a decision that is solely based on my own personal selfish desires. Like, it can't be about that anymore. I have to know where I have to be. I have to know what I have to do. And I need to do this simply by listening. I need to know that, God, you're okay with me taking this route and doing this route, and I'm going to do that. Because I know when you say it's okay, then you've paved the road already, and things are already in motion for me to get there. And I promise you guys, things are happening right now at such a speed that I'm floored by it. Like, I'm just floored by it. And my team, I'll talk a little bit about my team. There's myself, born here in the U.S. I got one of my other business partners lives in Qatar right now, which is on 20-hour flight from here. It's a long flight. And then the other one is in Belgium. Okay. Now, you want to talk about diversity. You want to talk about being like, there's no excuse. You know what I mean? Like, God has given us every single tool we could possibly need to make this a success. And I just know that it is. I just know that God's behind this whole thing, because there's no way. My investor is the one that now lives in Belgium, but was living here in the building when I didn't even want to be in that building to begin with. I did not want to be there because I did not want to be in Hollywood. Not that I hate Hollywood, but it's just so touristy and so busy all the time. I didn't want to be here, but that's exactly where I was. That's exactly where God put me. So I was there, but I didn't know that God was already setting things up to put the investor that I needed for this particular project to take place was there. That's why I had to be there. Now it makes sense, you see? So instead of fighting what you have in front of you, if this is the position that you're in right now, if this is where God has you right now, don't fight it. Don't be thinking, how am I going to get out of this? I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to deal with this person. I don't want to be at this job right now. Don't fight it. Be in it. Like, be present in that moment. Be in whatever it is that you are right now. Don't think that it's just, it's just a mundane whatever. No, man, God has you there for a reason. So be smart. Be the smart person that asks, okay, God, why am I here? Not what am I doing here? Why am I here? What is it in this scenario right now in my life? It could be personal. It could be at home. It could be in your career. It could be in music. It could be outside of music. But why am I in this position right now in my life? Why has God surrounded me by these people right now in my life? You may not have the investor that you're looking for whatever projects that you want in your current situation, but there's something that somebody has got to give you around you. There's a communication. There's a talk. There's encouragement. There's something there. But if you're so busy trying to get out of there, then you're losing the whole reason of why you're in that space in the first place. So don't negate that. Like, don't negate that. Spend some time with God. Spend some time just saying, open this, whatever door you want to open it. But let me see, take me through it. I can live off of my grandfather's stories for so much. At some point, I'm going to have to start learning and living these stories myself and creating my own stories. Right. And so just look at it that way. And I promise you guys, I promise you that you're going to be amazed at how quickly God will get you there if you'll just trust. If you'll just trust him. Just trust him and know that he's got your back. All right?
Wow. I receive that, and I'm sure everybody that's listening receives that. Again, so good. Well, listen, we just got a couple more questions, and we'll just wrap up with those. This has been amazing. Please, if you were on live, if you were able to get on and then had to get back off, go back and listen. There's so much good stuff in this. For those of you that are watching this later, this is why we put it online, so that you can listen to it as many times as you want or need to, because there's so much good information here. Let's see. Amoy Dixon, she says, well, she remembers you from 2016 Shine. She beatboxed in an all-girls group. She says she loves writing songs, and she wants to know, what is the best way to get my songs in front of others who will buy it? So she must be wanting to songwrite for other people. So what's the best way to get her songs in front of other people?
Yeah. So I know, if you guys remember, those of you who did attend Shine, there's a gentleman by the name of Billy Clark. They're a part of a group, or he owns the company, I should say. Vocalize, I believe it's Vocalize University. But they have, so there's these camps that people do, and his is one of them. I know because I went to it this past year that they did it. But there's a lot of different programs that you guys can get into to where you can get in front of industry pros. But like for them, for example, they did like a 10-day training camp. But again, you're going to go, I'm not sure what they charge, and their fees I'm sure are on their website, but you're going to pay whatever that is. Okay. And it can be, to some, it could be a lot of money, to other people it's not. But again, get past the price tag of it and think about the network of it, because it's the network. I promise you, it's the network. It's the people that you're going to meet that will be able to now put you in rooms with other people that you normally wouldn't have access to. Find a group like that. I don't know what city you live in, so that's why I'm kind of like stumbling on what to tell you there. But if you're in a larger city, most of them will have songwriters associations. Fort Lauderdale, okay. So you'll be able. So look in your area for here we have in Los Angeles. There's you guys can Instagram this or look it up on Instagram. It's LA Songwriters. And literally they get together once a month, sometimes twice a month, and it's nothing but songwriters. And it had grown into when I would go, it'd be like 200 people there, and they'd have a speaker, someone talking about songwriting, but then it's about everybody else in the room. Like if you're going, you're thinking you're getting the wisdom from somebody, and yes, you are, but you're also connecting with all these other people in the room. So just try to put yourself in that space, and you got to start somewhere. So you're not going to write a song today and be in front of Timbaland, tomorrow. Like that's not how it works. But you got to start that avalanche. So just think you're doing the little snowball, but by the time it gets down to the bottom, then it's huge. But that's because you put the effort and the work into it. So be a little more strategic and methodical about it.
Yeah, that's great. And that's Shine, right? Shine by Carrie Lewis. We're gonna have virtual showcases coming up here. We'll have registration opening up here in several weeks. So those are opportunities that are out there. Like you said, it's about getting in front of the right people that can connect you. It's networking. It's networking, right? And people, you've said a couple different times in this webinar that there's so many things at your fingertips, but it takes a little bit of work. Like do the research, look up songwriters that are writing for people. And if you have a certain niche or genre that you want to write for, you do the work, do your homework. Don't just expect it to just fall out of the thin air into your lap. So that's good. Really, really good. Joy wants to know, is worship music considered its own genre, or do they cross it with genres according to who sings it? That's
I don't know what your opinion would be on this. For me, it's like worship music is kind of its own genre. It's developed into its own genre now, with the Hillsongs and with the Planet Shakers, and they've pretty much it wasn't. That's what's funny, is that it wasn't even a genre before, and then all of a sudden that's all it is. It's just, to me, it's just now one big genre of worship. But then it depends. So I guess it's both and different, because you can have, again, a Tasha Cobbs singing Oceans, but then you have, the original group who sings it. It's two different sounds, but the same song. So yeah, I guess they can be divided, but depending on who sings it, it's going to determine.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Rebecca, what would you say the next step should be after seeing social media success? So I'm trying to read into that. Rebecca, if you're still out there, maybe you can expound on this a little bit, but I'm reading it, John, as maybe she's had some social media success. Maybe she's got some followers. So maybe she's asking what her next step should be from there.
Yeah. That's still pretty broad. So, are you an artist? Are you an influencer? Like,
Rebecca, if you're out there, go ahead and either in the comments or the Q&A. We'll hang on for a second. I don't have another one. This is actually the last question at the moment.
Okay.
So we'll see if she hangs on. But, I think while we're waiting, educate, do more writing. Oh, here she goes. She's a singer-songwriter.
Okay.
Learning to produce her. Well, there you go. Good. Rebecca, great job. First of all, you're learning to produce your own songs. That's a good step, right? So she said, she's just learning to be a one-man band. So she's learning to try to do all these things herself. So she is the singer-songwriter.
Okay.
So she had some social media success and the singer-songwriter.
So what I would say, honestly, since you're doing, first of all, I applaud you for doing everything yourself. That's incredible, because that will stick with you forever. Like, it's going to be with you for the rest of your life. So kudos to you for that. I would say ride the wave of your social media. Hopefully, I'm not sure what your following is like, but hopefully you're being able to monetize at this point. After that, you tell me, you give me your thoughts on this too, Josh, but like, before I would ever jump into getting a manager or an agent, I would definitely jump into getting a publicist. Just because now you're going to pay them, so they're not getting a percentage of like a manager would or an agent would. You're going to pay them, but they're going to open up some doors for you and create a buzz for you that you would not have been able to do yourself. So now that you have some social media success, and you're working on an album, now a publicist can take that and make that into something to now package it and get it out to more viewers, to more people. There's one particular girl that came through AMTC, and she a country artist, and we had this exact conversation. So I ended up giving her my publicist's name in Nashville, same guy. And he's incredible, amazing, but he ended up picking her up. I completely forgot that I had done that. So he sends me a video like a year later of her on, it was on one of the networks, but just saying that she's doing super well, and she just wanted me to see it. And I was like, well, who is that? I didn't, in my mind. And so come to find out, it was the girl that I had introduced them. So she had taken the advice. She got him hired, and I'm not plugging him. I won't tell you his name, but it's about finding someone that's going to take you from there. That's what I would do. And then everything else after that point, you're kind of calling the shots, and you're getting to dictate your relationship with your manager and with your agents, because you've already got everything lined up. But honestly, I would ride the social media wave as far as you can, and just make that swell even bigger, because that's going to speak volumes for whoever's going to be looking at you. And again, hopefully you're monetizing that situation.
Yeah, that was really good. That's part of understanding and knowing what industry people are looking for, and your following and what kind of buzz you have going on around you is a huge part of that. Yeah. So you're right. Ride that wave. Do what you can to create that as much as possible and get that as big as possible. Joy wants to know. Oh, actually, Joy's mom. Joy wrote in for her mom. Wants to know more about how does copywriting work in the industry if you're a songwriter? So maybe just give a brief.
Something, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's what's called the poor man's copyright, right? Which most of us, I think, have done it. It's just the easiest way to do it. And so what you would do in that particular case is put your music, put it on put the lyrics down, put it on a CD or a flash drive, seal it, mail it to yourself, certified mail, and never open it until hopefully you never have to open it. But you wouldn't open it. The reason why you would do that is in case there's ever a whatever lawsuit or whatever, or someone uses your song and didn't have your permission, then you're able to physically show that you have something stamped with the date on it that you had created it before it got out there, and that would be your proof. So again, hopefully you would never have to open that. But you would definitely want to do your copyrights. So do understand, and this again you can Google, but understand that there's a difference between your copywriting and then your publishing. Like it's two different things happening. Okay, I would get it. I would get the copyright on your music, and you can actually do everything online, as to where before you had to mail everything in, and it was kind of a little bit of a mess. But now you can do everything online and do your copyrights there with the Library of Congress, and I'm not sure what the website is for that. But I'm hoping that I'm answering your question in terms of what it is. But you should be able to do all your copywriting online.
Yeah, it's an easy process. I mean, you Google it, you'll find it. Joy's mom, you'll find it in 30 seconds Googling it. You can do it all right online. It's a lot easier now than it was 15 years ago, for sure. So, well, listen, John, I could sit here and talk music business with you literally for hours. This was really good. I cannot wait to have further conversations with you. If you'll come back, I know that you have a long-standing relationship with Shine and Carrie Lewis, and we hope this relationship continues, because this has been a great wealth of knowledge. I hope everybody that tuned in and that will be watching at a later time really pays attention and really just takes in as much of the information as they can, because there's a lot to know, and there's a lot. I mean, you just scratched the surface today, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we had some really great questions, but there's a ton more. There's a lot of information out there. Man, takeaways from this, just off the top of my head: educate yourself. I remember back, I'm 44 now. So when I was late teens and before I signed my first deal, we used to go to record stores and read the back of CDs and tapes, even that there were still tapes and CDs in there, and read and who produced what and who wrote what, and then just research and look up magazines, and that's how we learn things. We have Google now. Like, we have the internet. It's so much easier, but you have to do the homework. You have to do it. Absolutely. Educate. So, Yep. Well, good. John, thank you so much again. This has been amazing. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. And we will see everybody next time for the next episode of the Shine Spotlight Webinar Series. Thank you, everybody. John, thanks again.
Thank you, guys.